So I have an issue.
Not feeling so fresh down there?
What?
I told you could catch just about anything off a toilet seat.
We're not doing this right now. My actual issue is battle ready as a painting standard. How much of the endless detail do I paint? How long do I spend on a single miniature? When do I stop? And how much effort should I be putting in? We're going to paint 3 Chaos Space Marine chosen models based on the Emperor's Children. One with an airbrush, one without an airbrush, and one that's just a little bit extra. And we're going to keep them all somewhere in the realms of tabletop ready. Let's go.
Let's start off with some traditional brushwork. I'm just going to start with Magecast Magenta as a base coat. Now there was a secret step before this, and that was to prime it black and then base coat it black. I've said it before, but base coating black before you start off just means you get the same finish if you need to tidy up anything. And honestly, when we're working on panels and trim, yeah, we're going to be cleaning a lot up. For painting panels, I like to take a house painting approach, and that's to cut in along the edges so you get those nice crisp results, and then come back and paint the flat work. For the trim, there's no real secret, you're just going to paint the trim. And for Emperor's Children, I like to do panels on one side and the trim for the other. And now with Impish Rogue, I'm going to start stippling in some of the mid-tone. If you're unfamiliar with the stippling technique, it's basically just doing little dots and little scratches instead of big wide brush strokes. Using all those little dots and slashes can give you some physical texture, but it's also to create a little bit of texture in the paintwork. If you want to avoid the physical texture part, you might just need to thin your paints down just a little bit extra. The cool part about stippling is basically you're just going to start aiming for anything that's not the very edge or a recess. And honestly, it's pretty quick, which is great when you're looking for battle ready. For some of the wider panels like the shoulder pad and the leg, I did go back to some more traditional brush strokes. I'm still using pretty thin down paint here, so I'm going to be drawing on the lines and then basically just feathering them out. This is what's going to start our gradient. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth here, but we do want the beginnings of it. And a little bit of advice for painting trim, just paint it the exact same as you would the panels. It's basically just different shapes. You don't have to overthink and overcomplicate things. Everything comes down to it's just a different shape. Now I'm going to jump up into our highlights, which is Pink Potion. And I'm going to be doing basically the exact same thing as we did with the Impish Rogue and just start stippling in, but in a smaller area. Again, keep the paints thin, it'll help to avoid that texture, and of course when we come back to those bigger panels, I'm going straight back to those strokes and feathering everything out. Another thing to remember, especially with lighter paint, when you're feathering or glazing something out, it is going to be a lot more stark wet than it is dry. Don't worry, it will calm down and it won't be as obnoxious after it's dried. Now here's the reason I like stippling, and we weren't too worried about the blends, because we're going to come in with the color before, in this case Impish Rogue, and start blending back. The glaze I'm using here is roughly 3 parts Warpaint Stabilizer Medium to 1 part paint. And it seems scary, but start in the lighter area and move it back towards the color that you're actually using. And with all the pink smoothed out, that's basically it. And don't worry, we will be painting the other details further on in the video, so you're going to be able to see how we went from this to this. And now it's time for the airbrush, and yes, I know, everybody treats airbrushes like they pissed on the toilet seat, hid the car keys, and took the batteries out of the remote. But there are some things that an airbrush can do that is just kind of a pain in the ass with traditional brushwork. Since we're painting Emperor's Children, I wanted to go and do something that was full-blown all fluorescent. And if we're being honest, that's probably expected around here by now. So from the Army Painter WARPAINTS Air range, this is the hot pink fluorescent. And even through the airbrush, it still took probably 3 or 4 coats to build up the opacity for it. Then from the same range, we're going with Blue Flux. And for this one, I'm going to be tilting the model back at a really super steep angle because I just want to collect the undershadows. One of the coolest things about airbrushes and these 2 colors of paint is after you lay down a flat pink and you go in with the blue, the gradient will actually take it to a purple, and then the heavier you spray on the blue, then it turns into a blue. So you get this awesome pink into purple into blue mix. And it already looks pretty sick. Obviously, because we use the airbrush to lay in our base colors, we have to go back in and black out all the panels and the trim that we want. And for this part, mostly I use my best black recipe. This time around is 2 drops of black from the Army Painter Fanatics range mixed with 4 drops of Occultist Black Speed Paint. The combination of having the coverage of the Fanatic paints mixed into something like Speed Paint, which is designed to kind of spread out and make sure we get that coverage, is really nice. And for things like this where sometimes it is tricky to get right up to the edge, it is incredibly handy. We can jump in for some real talk now while we do all this blackout work. I've always been a massive Chaos Space Marines fan ever since I started playing Warhammer. But one of the big things that's always made me shy away from it is having to paint all the trim. Even my own Night Lord army is converted from generic Space Marines, so I didn't have to do it. Out of the 3 schemes we're doing today, this was probably the quickest, because honestly, the Airbrush did all the heavy lifting here. It gave us our base coat, it put in our shadow colors for us, and that was really it. But I'm going to interrupt this to show you how to quickly paint bone. Since bones and skulls are never really the focus, you don't want to build them up too big, but you don't want to just skip them entirely either. So I'm going to do a little bit of a wet blend between oak brown and then into skeleton bone. I'm just going to lay both of the colors down and then just mix them together while they're still wet. If you've always thought wet blending seems like an advanced technique, it's really not. If you can mix paint on a palette, you can mix paint on a model. And then you could probably also dodge a wrench. After I'm happy with the gradient between the 2 colors, I go back in with the lighter tone, which was skeleton bone, and just pick out some little lines. And that's it, that's all there is to it. And now we're into the big one.
Final round, fight!
Even though the video is about battle ready and tabletop standard, you still want to go that extra mile for characters. But just because we're putting the extra time in doesn't mean it has to be super difficult. For the pink purple tones on the armor for this one, I'm going to start off with Terrestrial Titan. This is going to be the deepest, darkest shadow color that we have for anything that's going to end up being pink or purple. From here to start building up, we're going with Diabolic Plum. And here's a cool little trick I like to use with this. When I go on with base coats and when I know that I'm going to be doing some kind of gradient, I start with a pretty thin down mix. Thinning your paints down obviously also starts to break down how opaque it's going to be. And since we can start playing with opacity levels and transparency levels, it means we can start going back and forward. For example, this is the first pass of Wicked Pink. It still gets a pretty good coverage, but it's not as intense as the final color. And going back to that Terrestrial Titan for just a little bit, I did glaze everything back into the shadows. And now that second pass of Wicked Pink is really going to start to bring in that pink punch. And the cool part is you can keep building this up until you're happy with it. Now obviously that pink and purple recipe is going to be repeated on the rest of the parts that we want that color. But honestly, it can be pretty quick once you know what you're doing, where everything's got to sit, and especially if you're playing with thinned down paints to the part where you can play with the opacity, it goes pretty quickly because everything blends pretty quickly. Even on this little arm piece, I'm already starting to jump into the Wicked Pink. Now we've got the purple, let's look at some turquoise. It's the exact same idea but different colors, but those colors that we're using now do make it a little bit more difficult. The base coat for this one is going to be Deep Ocean Blue. And this one I am going to build up to a solid coat because we don't really need the transparency. This is already really dark for what we're going for. Then in a weird jump, I'm going into Scarab Green. This one is just entirely a glaze because I only want to tint just a little bit of that shoulder pad. And all I'm doing with the green is preparing our surface to move into a gradient. When that's done, I'm going to go into a deep Azure. Except I've thinned this one down a lot. In my personal experience, teals and turquoises and blue-greens have a pretty tough time blending in. A lot of the time it can be patchy or chalky, and it is just pretty difficult to work with. So as I go through the turquoise, and here now jumping into Turquoise Siren, I have thinned this down quite a bit, and I am just going back and forward and keep layering and layering and layering. Each time I go up a layer, I'm just picking out even less than what I was before. And I know it looks horrible at this point, and it's going to do it for just about everybody, but trust the process on this one. If you want to use light turquoise and teals, this is just something you have to do. Light colors in general kind of suck to start glazing, so that's why I like to build up as thinly as possible, because then I'm going to start glazing with the darker colors. Here I've jumped back into that Scarab Green, but this is exceptionally thin because I want to start those layers all over again but going in the opposite direction. And after I faded that transition out, I'm going to go back into the Deep Ocean Blue and do the same. But right now it's time to bring the ruckus. There's no way we could do an Emperor's Children painting video without adding some leopard print. The entire left leg is going to get a base coat in Wastelands clay, but I thinned that one down just a little bit too much, so I had to wait for that to dry and come back in with some unthinned paint. And once we got a nice solid covering of that, we had to go in with a little bit of an orange glaze. I thinned this one down a lot just because I didn't know what kind of level of saturation I wanted for it. So this is 1 drop lava orange to 3 drops of the Warpaint stabilizer. And honestly, I just kept going and going and going with glaze after glaze. I'm pretty sure I ended up somewhere around 6 layers. But this is also the trick to glazing. A lot of people think glazing is really hard because they either go too heavy or they just don't do enough coats. It's super thin and you're building up a gradient. It's going to take some time. You may have seen this on the channel a few times, but here's our leopard print design. With black, I'm just going to take a nice thin sharp brush and paint some little C shapes. I try and have the openings facing in different directions and not be too uniform. And I'm also going to put in a few little black splotches just to fill in some of the space. But one of the things I found with leopard print is it's also good to have some space between the design. Designs like this, it's pretty easy to make it feel clustered and be a little bit too close together, so that open space really helps out. And it also leaves room to show off all of that gradient that we did. After that, I'm just going to take some oak brown again and put some little dots at the opening of all those little C shapes. Trust me, use brown for this because it breaks up all that black. After this is done, we're finally going to move into some of those other details. Things like the hoo-ha cover. I want to build the cloth into an almost white, but we have some pretty deep folds, so we're going to need some contrast. The first few steps of this is basically the exact same of the turquoise armor that we did on the arm. So here's a quick recap. We started off with the deep ocean blue, went in with a glaze of scarab green before jumping into deep azure and then turquoise siren. We are going to take a few extra steps up to make it look white, but we'll go through that in a minute. One of the big things I find with painting cloth is trying to get the smooth gradients while keeping the deep folds. The other part that's tricky is we don't really want the entire thing to be built up to the same level of highlight as everything else. So you'll notice as I'm painting here that the closer it is to the belt buckle or the higher it is physically on the model, the lighter it's going to be, which means closer to the feet it's going to be darker. And what this does is add an extra dimension to the model. It also starts to help to push focus in the direction that you want it to go, and generally we want the focus on the face. And the big question is, how do we actually do that? And the answer is pretty simple, it's still just highlighting. In my mind, I have the idea where I've cut the loincloth into 3 sections, the bottom section, middle section, and then the top section. And for each of those sections, I stop highlighting at different times. Obviously, the part that's physically higher and the part that I want the most attention, that's going to get the lightest or the brightest highlight. And in case you're wondering, I did the exact same thing to the head. There's only 2 differences here. One, I did go lighter again with the highlight tones because I want all the focus directed towards the face. And then to create some visual interest, I took a paint called Elderflower, which I heard your dad smells like the berries of, and I glazed in some of that shadow work. It made it interesting and it picked out some of the details for us. And oh yeah, it's time. While these models aren't perfect or display quality, they don't have to be. As long as you've enjoyed painting them, that's all that really matters, and at the end of the day, they're going on the table to basically roll ones. As always, big love to the Army Painter in-games and all the Patreons that keep me thick with 3 Cs. Love you all, and we'll see you next time.